I'm Jennifer Garcia, Gabriel Fernandez's first grade teacher.
What was your first impression of Gabriel?
I didn't really have a first impression of him. He just looked like a normal little boy. But my first impression was of the mom and her boyfriend, which at that time I didn't know what his relation was to Gabriel. But my first impression of them was that they looked a little bit scary.
How do you mean scary?
Like they were in gangs, So I made the comment to my coworkers that I want to be on their good side. And then, 15 days later or so, I made my first report. He told me, he asked me a question, is it normal for your mom to hit you? And of course, we've all been there before. So I said, well, yeah, what do you mean? And then he said, well, is it normal for your mom to hit you with a belt? And I'm thinking, well, my mom did. So I'm like, well, maybe. And then I talked to him more at recess, and he described the end of the belt. He didn't know it was called a buckle. So he said, that end part that's metal with the little pointy thing? And I said, that's the buckle. And he said, yeah, she hits me with that, and sometimes I bleed. And that's when I knew I needed to call. So that day I made my first report. Shortly after that, there started to be visible marks, on his body. One of them was his lip was swollen, and there was like a big cut on the middle of his lip. And I asked him, what happened? And he said, well, my mom punched me in the mouth. And a lot of times I would ask him, well, why? And he either seemed confused, like even he didn't know, or it would be related to work, homework, not being able to read a certain word, things like that. It seemed to relate to academics. Well, after the first report, I started talking directly to a social worker. So the first reports to like a hotline, and then I got a call back, which made me think things were happening, because I got a call back saying, oh, you're going to talk directly to a social worker. I was kind of like, wow, that was fast, something's going to happen here. And I've never had anything go that far. Usually it's just report, boom, done, nothing else happens. The next one was a haircut. Strange haircut with all these pieces missing from all around the top of his hair. And it looked like she had taken the haircut clippers and cut like chunks all of his skin under all the pieces of hair that was cut out. And he had a big scratch that was healing over on his ear. And then that's when I made another report about that incident too. After that haircut, she said she was going out that day. And I remember it sounded like she was in the car. I could hear like wind noise. And she said, okay, I'm going to go out there. About 2 days later, she shaved his hair into a mohawk. So it looked normal again, except for the cuts that were healing up underneath. And then I thought, okay, good. Here it goes. It's over. And then like 2 days later, she cut chunks out of the mohawk again. And it's always seemed to be some form of a punishment to embarrass him at school, because everybody noticed. Coaches on the playground would come up to me and say, what's going on with his hair? And other kids would ask him, what's happening there? And we would just say, he likes it like that, and try to give him something to say. But that would be the next thing that happened. So I did recommend him to the psychologist even, to see if she could talk to him, if they had like some kind of one-on-one they could do. But they just, with the resources, they don't have anything available. So I couldn't get him the help at school either. I just remember the one day he walked in, and right when I looked at his face, his eyes were like swollen. His whole face was swollen, and it wasn't bruised. It was just swollen to where he looked like a cat or something. Like you just knew something was off. And then as I got closer, I noticed bruises, little teeny tiny circle bruises all over his cheeks and chin. And I said, what happened to your face? And he said, oh, I was playing with my brother and I fell. but you knew that's not what happened. I said, well, it wouldn't matter what you said because I see the marks and I know that you don't fall down and get little bruises like that. I said, what happened? And he said, she shot me in the face with a BB gun. She did nothing. And I can only say she because I talked to one person. I don't know who else handled paperwork or who she goes to. I just know that she was the one I talked to. She was the one that knew the information. She's the one that went out and saw him. And I don't understand how you couldn't remove him or think it was a dangerous situation or how the mom could give an excuse. I did it yesterday because we do it every year. It's online. It took a half hour, and that's because I actually read it. If you don't want to read it, you can just skip. It's kind of like optional. You could just go to the quiz at the end, pass the quiz. That's our training. So it's a half hour whenever you want in your own house, by yourself, click, watching TV. I mean, you put into it what you want. Now, of course, you hope a teacher would sit and actually read it and make sure they, refresh their memory, but you don't have to. And a lot of the information that's in there is common sense, about a bruise here or there. There's nothing about if you have a student in this situation, you report, what do you do now? And it's optional to tell your principal because it's anonymous. And what my information was from my own principal was kind of, it's anonymous to protect you. Whereas I feel like it's anonymous to protect anybody around you so they're not at fault for anything. At one occasion, he came in girls' clothes, and I said, I'm reporting that. And I was upset. And I was sitting at lunch with my coworkers because, of course, they all saw. And they said a parent can cut their hair how they want. A parent can dress them how they want. And I don't think they understood the severity. When you put that on top of all the other things, it was mental abuse. It wasn't just, we don't have enough money, this is all we have. It wasn't that. It was, you're going to school in that outfit because I want to embarrass you.
So if you could go back, or going forward, what needs to be done to save the next Gabriel Fernandez?
Well, so the social workers, I know they're going to blame it on their supervisors because they already did. And I know they're going to blame it on the system that they have to go through to remove a child. Something there needs to change because it doesn't make sense that even my coworker, she reported this year also. And she goes, I reported, he was removed the next day out of my class. Foster care, gone. And his mark that she reported was nothing compared to the things that Gabriel came in day with. Something's not right because now the more stories are coming out where kids are being pulled from parents, loving parents, for silly reasons that make no sense. Then you have Gabriel, who was forced to stay until he was, leaving in a body bag. At the end of the year, we're working on Mother's Day projects and we're making cards and just coloring things. And so that was the last thing he worked on, before he left school. And that was the picture I have of him, the one that he just looks, so horrible in because he was absent for 12 days and then he came back. That's what he looked like. And we were working on Mother's Day things. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, don't make it, don't make this for her. She doesn't deserve it. And I never told him anything like that because I knew that I think he thought he could win her over and eventually she would love him and just, stop hurting him. So he made the Mother's Day card. He made the picture and he did the handprint and everything. It was all cute. And he wrapped it up and it sat on his desk. And then the next week is when I found out that he had been murdered by her. And I threw it away. I threw it away and then I kept the card and I have the card with me still.